Well, 20 years ago, it seems like a long time, right? But not if you talk to fans from USC and Notre Dame. They remember the Bush Push, legendary before its time, will become one of the most unforgettable moments in college football history, one that stirred the pot for both sides. The outcome, it was a touchdown setup for USC and a trip to the Rose Bowl against Texas. But in the rule books, let's just say things changed because of that. Fast forward to now, we'll get a new rendition between the two sides. No Bush, obviously, in this one. But Saturday at 7:30, we know this rivalry, 96 meetings between the two sides. The Irish leading the series there with 52 wins. Along with that, they have won 6 straight home games when it comes to the Trojans. Their last loss, 2011, a long time ago. But USC coming in with some momentum after that win against number 15 Michigan, 31-13. So maybe that carries over into Saturday. All right, for more of the matchup, the fellas from 24/7 Sports, as always, good to have them. Tim Prister, I should say, and Ryan Abraham. And fellas, the scheduling gods giving us Saturday maybe one of those CFP implications at this point of the year. Tim, what have you been hearing about the conversation about the Fighting Irish and the pressure situation coming this way?
Well, they're pretty accustomed to pressure situations. They're since the Northern Illinois loss last year, Notre Dame is 14-0 in playoff elimination games. So this is pretty much how Notre Dame lives. This one's a little bit more difficult because USC's a better football team, I think, than they've been in recent years. They've got a whole bunch of offense. Love what they do with the RPO game and Lincoln Riley in charge of that, of course. But, pressure is just kind of part of what Notre Dame has created for themselves. You lose early in the season, you got to win them all. This one's going to be a little bit more difficult than maybe some of these previous 6 home games have been against USC.
For USC, I think looking at that Michigan game, it was really disappointing loss on the road to a ranked Illinois team, and USC was staring at like a 7-5 type of season in the face unless they were able to circle the wagons, get things right, and get a win over the Wolverines. They needed that signature Big Ten win. The tougher teams in the Big Ten, they haven't got a win like that. And I think they were the last former Pac-12 team to get one, even like UCLA beat Penn State. So to get that win changes the trajectory, I think, of the season. Now you're looking at 5-1, and if you can go on the road and get that first win in South Bend since 2011, now it looks a lot more reasonable that you can do that. If you can beat Notre Dame on the road, like Nebraska and Iowa, those games look a lot more winnable, and they still have the matchup with Oregon down the road there. But you look at a really potential bid in the college football playoffs, and USC's never been to the playoff before. So that Michigan game was key. Now they have to kind of king themselves, go do another one on top of it and get a win against Notre Dame.
We see the outlook there when it comes to USC. A win is 40%, but a loss 16%. So, Ryan, I want to come right back at you in terms of getting a win against another and a chance to get their second win against a ranked opponent. Is there a sense of comfort or confidence going into this week from that group?
Last week it was do or die. They had to get that win, and now it's more like playing with house money a little bit. If you look at the beginning of the season, it was going to be really hard to beat Notre Dame on the road and beat Oregon on the road. But now the position that USC's in, they have a real shot here. So I feel like they don't have the dire situation where the downside is like it's going to be a disaster of a season. It's not necessarily the case. They could still go on the road and beat like an Oregon, and if they finish 10-2, I think still make the college football playoff. And I think with this offense that USC has, last year they had a pretty big step back. Usually these Lincoln Riley offenses have been elite, top 5 in the nation, and it just wasn't that way. Now this year, a lot of metrics has USC as the #1 offense in the country. I think that gives you a puncher's chance in any game. So I think coming into this one, there's a lot of confidence there that if they can get a few stops on defense, that the offense is really hard to stop. So I think this week's a little different. Last week there was a lot of pressure of you can't lose this game. Now it seems like more of an upside, like look at all the good things that can happen if you go into South Bend and get a win.
Yeah, Notre Dame, of course, doesn't have that leeway. If you look at the rest of their schedule, Pittsburgh looks to be on the rise with their freshman quarterback, and so that could be a good win for them on the road. But it's do or die for Notre Dame every step of the way. And as we look at this game, Notre Dame has defensively since the beginning of the year has really stepped up, and they've done it against good offenses. They did against Arkansas and Boise State and NC State, all of those capable of putting up points. So, when I look at Notre Dame and the inroads they may be able to gain against USC, it's in the passing game. C.J. Carr has stepped up like, I think most of us knew he was going But you look at the secondary at USC, which is really comprised of a bunch of transfers, and I'm not sure that group has coalesced and come together. So this look, weather permitting, because we know that there could be some bad weather coming into South Bend Saturday night. But weather permitting, I think this is a game where Notre Dame, C.J. Carr can throw for 300 yards, which they probably will have to do to combat some of the stuff that USC does offensively. Mekhi Lemon is, I just really enjoy watching Mekhi Lemon play with an appreciation for a guy that just goes for it every time out. He's one of the great competitors in college football. So Notre Dame has to be able to stop him. Jaden Maiava has, I think, really settled into the position when Notre Dame played him last year, and he threw the 2 long pick sixes. I don't think he was completely settled in. I think he is now. But, Notre Dame's defense has had 7 interceptions the last 2 games. I think 11 sacks in the last 3 games. So things are really, looking up for them. They're catching a good USC team, and they're catching them at their peak at this point of the season. Notre Dame's definitely playing their best football, and they'll need to do that against a Trojan team coming in here that's feeling good about themselves.
If they're able to play their best ball, of course, one thing they can accomplish this week that they haven't, they get their first AP-ranked win this season, because as you already touched on it, Tim, when it comes to it, they don't have any other opportunities. I mean, look at the schedule: BC, Navy, Pittsburgh, Syracuse, and Stanford. They don't have numbers. So I hate to say it, but does it seem like a make or break for them this week?
Yeah, no doubt about it. But they know that. Like I said, I mean, they've been playing under these conditions for a year and a half now. And Marcus Freeman he really has a great touch with a football team. He understands what buttons to push. And he knows that this is 2 years in a row where their backs have been firmly against the wall. So these players know how to respond to his motivation. I think they've certainly learned how to practice on a weekly basis, which, look, I know everybody goes out there and practices, but not everybody does it. Not everybody does it well and does it productively. And I think that he has taught this team how to practice, how to prepare for opponents. And so I think they'll be in a good frame of mind as USC comes to town.
We'll see that Saturday at 7:30. So now we have to pick winners for this one. And Ryan, of course, you'll be making the travel, so I'm going to give you first word on this one.
Yeah, I think this is going to come down to punting. Punting, yes. The weird thing about USC, they've punted 7 times in 6 games. They had a garbage time punt against Michigan when the game was out of reach. They just don't punt the football. The offense moves the ball. This is going to be a really good Notre Dame defense, so it'll be interesting to see. If USC punts 3 or 4 times, they're not going to win this game. And then on the other side, Michigan punted 4 times and could have punted a couple more when they had to go for it late in the game. And the couple of weeks ago against Illinois, the Illini only punted once. So I think USC's defense needs to get a few stops. If the Irish punt a few times and USC's able to keep moving the ball, field goals, touchdowns, wherever they're going to do, they just don't punt, I think USC's going to win the game. So I'm going to go USC 34-31. I think it's going to be a close one. The spread seems a little big for me, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than that.
I'm surprised it opened at 8.5. I see 9.5. That tells me only one thing. I mean, there's only, for me, one explanation for that. That the odds makers and the bettors don't trust USC's defense. I don't know if Ryan necessarily agrees with that, but I think that to me, that's what it's saying. Notre Dame doesn't punt either. They went 2 games without punting. They go for 4th down. They could be at their own 30 or at their own 25. I think they were last year at USC and went for it. So they'll go for it. They'll like to maintain possession of the ball. Notre Dame needs to run the football. They've got 2 great running backs. They're a little bit compromised on the offensive line with their center Ashton Craig out. He is the key to that offensive line, and that hurts. But I know USC's offensive line's been banged up a little bit too. But I think it's closer than the point spread says, and I think that the weather could have something to do with that. I want to say high scoring because everything Notre Dame's been involved with so far this year has generally been high scoring. I have Notre Dame 34, USC 30.
That's crazy. It's the first time we've done these segments all season long. It's usually about the quarterbacks that battle in the trenches or the wideouts and DBs. Punting, that is the first time you guys have mentioned that there, so that is something to giggle about. Ryan, I'll ask you this. Chance we get a maybe second rendition of the Bush Push in 2025 here?
I don't know. Jane Mayava is pretty good with the ball in his hands when he's running. But yeah, they didn't run him much against Michigan last week, so it'll be interesting to see. The quick passing game has worked really well. I think you're going to see a lot of that, and they're down to top two running backs out. King Miller, the freshman walk-on. I think you're going to see a heavy dose of him. His first start ever is going to be in South Bend, which is kind of nuts. But he had 158 yards against Michigan, so he seems ready for the task.
Tim, we have a photo. I want to see if you can name this player from that day. Who is this man right here?
It's Ryan Harris.
Yeah.
We'll see him this weekend. I see him every weekend in the Notre Dame press box.
He is one of our guys here, and obviously it was a sad day, but obviously give him a hug because we probably will remind him about this day. Hopefully we'll see what happens on Saturday. Fellas, as always, Tim, Ryan, appreciate your help and everything, breaking this down for Saturday night, the showdown there between the two sides. But don't forget, of course, when it comes to everything this weekend, we will be at Ohio State taking on Wisconsin in Madison. The pregame show, the fellas ready to roll with Emily Proud as well as Kinsey as well. Don't forget Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern and some special guests, Monte Ball and Beanie Wells.